They want to bring their sin out of the closet and parade it on the street and be called respectable, decent, natural people. It's not decent, it's not respectable, and it's not natural. And by the way, God doesn't make people that way. Don't blame God for that. Who wants the children? And I'll tell you who wants your children. The homosexual crowd wants them.
In 1977 and 78, gay rights measures were being repealed across the United States. In California, lawmaker John Briggs took a further step.
Every homosexual, every lesbian...
Briggs mounted a campaign for Proposition 6, a statewide measure to deny homosexuals their jobs in public schools.
Now, what Proposition 6 is really all about is the right of parents to determine who will be teaching their children. We don't allow people who believe in practicing bestiality to teach our children. We don't let prostitutes teach our children. And the reason we don't is because it's illegal to be a prostitute. But it's not illegal to be a homosexual in California.
Proposition 6 brought the issue of homosexuality into the homes of millions of Californians, and it thrust Harvey Milk into a statewide spotlight.
There are already laws on the books to protect our children. Everybody from Superintendent of Schools Wilson Riles to Jerry Brown to newspaper editors across the state agree that indeed we have the laws to protect our children. I was born of heterosexual parents. I was taught by heterosexual teachers in a fiercely heterosexual society with television ads and newspaper ads, fiercely heterosexual, a society that puts down homosexuality. And why am I homosexual if I'm affected by role models? I should have been a heterosexual, and no offense meant, but if teachers are going to affect you as role models, there'd be a lot of nuns running around the streets today.
Well, nobody took Harvey Milk very seriously when he first ran for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 1973. But last year, Milk won election to the Board of Supervisors, where he's the first openly gay city official in the United States. And representing the Bay Area Committee against the Briggs Initiative is Sally Gearhart. Gearhart is a lesbian, a former high school teacher, and now a speech professor at San Francisco State University.
I remember that just before that debate, we had had a lot of talk, Harvey and I, about how we would dress. And we had agreed that the image that we wanted to project was sort of Mama and Papa USA, as neat and conservative as we possibly could. So a half hour before we start to leave for the television station, Harvey calls me and says, "I've lost my earrings, dear. Whatever shall I do?" Right? And I freak out, thinking, oh, my soul.
You yourself say that the heterosexual is the child molester. And if in your statements here, in all these newspapers and tonight, that child molestation is not an issue, if it is not an issue, why do you put out literature that hammers it home? Why do you play on that myth and fear?
Same thing with VD, Harvey. We put out publications about VD so you can avoid it.
This is campaign literature.
Yes, we're trying to keep people from falling into that trap. We're trying to prevent it by pointing it out. And by the way, I don't make the statement that 95% of all the heterosexuals commit.
What percent is it?
I don't know. You tell me.
The state says 90 to 95%.
Well, I've never seen that in writing. Yeah, I don't make those statements. You do, but we're not.
You even says here.
We are not talking about child molestation. The fact is, at least 95% of the people are heterosexual. If we took heterosexuals out and homosexuals out, you know what?
We'd have no teaching.
We'd have no teaching.
No child molestation. So you're saying that the percentage of population is equal to the percentage of child molestation?
No.
There's no difference.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
No, that's what you just said.
No, I'm saying that we cannot prevent child molestation, so let's cut our odds down and take out the homosexual group and keep in the heterosexual group.
Why take out the homosexual group if it is more than, overwhelmingly it is true that it's the heterosexual men, I might add, who are the child molesters.
I believe that's a myth. I've never seen
Senator, the FBI, the National Council on Family Relations, the Santa Clara County Child Sexual Abuse Treatment Center, and on and on and on. Sometimes I think what we were faced with in Proposition 6 was not so much a conflict of values as two sets of fears. The incredible fears that the gay community had, all of us, that here we were being stomped on by what was turning out to be the moral majority. I mean, our very lives were being, threatened. The ways that we live, what our lifestyle is, and our reaction was extreme, and it should have been extreme. But then when you get into the other person's shoes, you figure that there was a lot of fear on the part of the fundamentalists as well. I mean, when you've lived your entire life believing in a certain social structure, believing in certain sex roles, believing in the ways that men and women should relate to each other, believing in the family, believing in what you believe God says should be the way human beings should relate within the family structure. And all of a sudden, there are these perverts out here saying that there are ways to live that are different from that and that furthermore it's great and beautiful and true and good, then you're threatened. And the very fabric of what this nation is supposed to be made up of, in the eyes of the fundamentalists, was actually being attacked, or is actually being attacked by gay people.
You know about Prop 6?
In August, 4 months before the election, opinion polls predicted that the majority of California citizens would vote for John Briggs' Proposition 6 and against the rights of gay teachers.
The bulk of Briggs' support lies in Southern California, so his appearance here was more symbolic than functional. He called San Francisco the moral garbage dump of the nation.
If they're going to lead such an open life of homosexuality that they want, a 21-gun salute every time somebody goes by them, those people are going to be in danger of being removed from their job. People are very emotional. They don't want to listen. Look what happened in Germany. Now, Anita Bryant already says that Jews and Muslims are going to hell. You know she's got a shopping list.
John Briggs said this morning that Dade County, Oklahoma, and St. Paul, Minnesota were only preliminary battles. He called his California campaign against homosexual teachers the main event. At San Francisco City Hall, Linda Shack, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
This was such a personal issue for me. This is something I did every day. And of course, the gay teacher issue is very volatile. To sit down with somebody who's a parent and maybe not particularly vitriolic against people, but to really say, look, this is a myth, like I've been teacher again for a long time, I'm not interested in getting in his pants. That's, people didn't want to hear it. I mean, how do you win people over to your side on something that's, so ingrained and so emotional? I mean, they're children. So even though he was a buffoon and even though he was ludicrous, he was also, at least the people who advised him, were brilliant because they picked on this particular issue, children.
It would be hard for me, if we're talking about schools, to go along with you. Any other adult thing that you do, the decorator, the hairdresser, whom I love, whom I have, I'd take him on every vacation if I had. I don't care what he does.
If by their silence and their doing nothing, Briggs should win, I think a lot of people are going to realize they have to make an ultimate decision. The decision is to go back in their closet real good, slam the door tight, which some will do, or burst down those closet doors once and for all and stand up and start to fight. Because if we learn from history that the struggle goes on, eventually we will win. And all the president has to do is, or the governor, is to turn the pages of history a little faster.
Join me in this message. Jimmy Carter, listen to us. You want to lead? You want to be the world's leader in human rights? Well, damn it, lead! There are 15 million lesbians and gay men waiting to hear your voice.
The grassroots No on 6 campaign was proving effective. 1 month before the election, the polls predicted a close vote. Many people had come to believe the Briggs Initiative would violate constitutional rights. A surprising array of political figures, including former Governor Ronald Reagan and Supervisor Dan White, went on record against the proposition.
President Carter spent less than an hour at this downtown Sacramento rally. As the president left the podium, Jerry Brown whispered to him briefly, and he came back for one more word of advice for voters.
And Ford and Reagan have already come out against it, so I think it's perfectly safe.
I also want to ask everybody to vote against Proposition 6.
On November 7th, 1978, Proposition 6 was defeated by a resounding 59 to 41%. On election night, Mayor George Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk joined the jubilant celebration in the Castro. Harvey Milk was at the height of his political power.
this state, my message to you is, so far, a lot of people joined us and rejected Proposition 6, and now we owe them something. We owe them to continue the education campaign that took place. We must destroy the myths once and for all, shatter them. We must continue to speak out, and most importantly, every gay person must come out. As difficult as it is, you must tell your immediate family, you must tell your relatives, you must tell your friends if indeed they are your friends, you must tell your neighbors, you must tell the people you work with, you must tell the people in the stores you shop in, once they realize that we are indeed their children and we are indeed everywhere, every myth, every lie, every innuendo will be destroyed once and for all. And once you do, you will feel so much better.